I'm going to show you my 5 favorite movements that I give to beginners in order for them to make a start, and how we use weight training to become more flexible. I'm not a flexible person. The sports that I grew up playing never included any stretching for the purpose of increasing mobility. Once I stopped playing team sport and got into bodybuilding and powerlifting, my already stiff body became even tighter, because the new game I was now playing was about being as big and strong as possible. Becoming flexible was not even on my radar. It just wasn't important for what I was trying to do. So when my priorities shifted and I decided to finally address my lack of mobility, to say that it was a long, slow grind is an understatement. Luckily, I had some great mentors and coaches who guided me through the process from not being able to touch my toes to being able to do things like splits and bridges. But the point of this video is not to go in depth about those more advanced positions. It's to give the crew who, like me, were starting from that position of 0 with a very tight, immobile body, just a couple of ideas of where to start. So, if you're a gym bro who's feeling brave, let's stop sweeping it under the rug and leaving it for another day and take the first step down the long and dark road that is flexibility. First, the crossbench pullover, a great movement for opening up the shoulders and spine. Position your upper back on a bench or box and extend the hips to assume a glute bridge. Take a light weight and hold it above the shoulders. Start by flexing the shoulders above your head, trying to get the dumbbell as close to the floor as your shoulders allow. Once you hit your end range, without allowing the dumbbell to lift back up, attempt to sink the hips towards the floor as low as you can and hold for a count of 3. Finish the rep by extending the shoulders and hips back to your starting position. Repeat for 6 to 10 and take a 10-second hold at the bottom stretch position of your last rep. Use enough external load to help you stretch deeper into the position, but not so much weight that it becomes too stressful on the body. You want to feel like you're going into a deep stretch, but not hanging on for dear life. A good goal to work towards is being able to keep the back of your shoulders on the bench as you sink the butt toward the floor. Next is the seated good morning for opening up the hips and lengthening the adductors. Sit upright on a bench with the knees wider than shoulder width and the feet in front of the knees. Attempt to keep an anterior pelvic tilt of the hips and arch of the lower back. Hold some weight on your back and attempt to lengthen through the spine as you fold forward from the hips. I try to think of a turtle poking its head out of the shell. You're trying to continuously lengthen through the spine rather than fold through the spine as you rotate through the hips, tipping your body forward. Don't allow your hips to roll into a posterior pelvic tilt or the lower back to round. Try to maintain that starting position. If you have access to an incline bench, set it up like this to help you maintain that APT and lumbar extension. You can also lift the front of the bench to use as a reachable target, which is great because this helps you measure progress and helps you feel like you're getting a win on the board in the early stages when the hips are blocked. A good goal to aim for is working towards getting your abs to a flat bench. Number 3, it's the weighted butterfly. And we're going to be strengthening the glutes in order to better open up the hips. And like the seated good morning, you'll also get a bit of a stretch in the adductors. For the weighted butterfly, sit upright against a wall with the soles of the feet together. Attempt to keep an anterior pelvic tilt of the hips and arch of the lower back. Hold enough weight on the knees so that when you relax, this external load sends them toward the floor, creating a stretch on the adductors. Count to 3 and then contract the adductors to lift the knees up a couple of inches. Hold this contraction for 3 seconds before repeating. Once you get the hang of this, you can also think about squeezing the glutes to help pull the knees closer to the floor, further opening the hips and stretching the adductors. A good goal to work towards is getting the knees to the floor. Once you can do that, bring the feet closer to the hips to make it more challenging. But to start, have the feet as far away from the hips as you need, depending on your current range. Next up is a movement that has a special place in my heart because I think it was the one movement which made me start to believe that an ex-powerlifter could one day become flexible. So number 4, it's the Jefferson curl. Now, it's worth mentioning that with all of these positions, discomfort is to be expected. It's stressful on the body taking it to an end range stretch and then loading it. But if anything surpasses discomfort and starts to cause pain, stop. For the Jefferson curl, stand upright with the feet either together or shoulder width apart. Try both and stick with a foot position that allows your body to best fold forward. For me, that's shoulder width. Grab enough weight so that it pulls you into a deeper fold than you can achieve without any external load. Attempt to keep the legs straight and round the spine section by section, upper, middle, and lower back until you're in your end range stretch. Here, we're strengthening the front of the body, the abdominals and hip flexors, whilst lengthening the posterior chain. It's also a great way to start moving your spine, which for a lot of us is pretty stiff. You should feel a stretch in the calf, hamstring, glutes, or back. It's different for each person depending on where you're carrying the most tension. Hold the bottom position for a count of 3 before unraveling the spine section by section, lower, middle, and upper back to stand tall in your starting position. Try standing a foot or 2 in front of a wall to keep you honest. It's normal to want to hinge through the hips to create your fold, but as well as keeping the legs straight to avoid bending the knees, we also want to limit the hinge of the hips in order to encourage more movement of the spine. A good goal to work towards is being able to touch your knuckles to the floor. From here, you can start using a deficit to further increase your range. Perform 5 to 8 reps, holding the last rep for 10 seconds in the bottom stretch position. Lastly, number 5, we're going to take a look at one stretch which doesn't require any external load, and it's the couch stretch. The reason why I love this one is you can do it almost anywhere, and it's easy to measure progress. So it's always encouraging when you can feel yourself getting better. Here, we're targeting the hip flexors, where you feel a stretch on the quads. Level 1 is hands on the floor. Level 2, hands on the knee. Level 3, head to the wall. And a good goal to work towards is level 4, getting your shoulders or even middle back to touch the wall with a vertical shin. To start, you can bring the knees slightly off the wall if it's too intense to have a vertical shin, and if the foot is cramping on the wall, you can use a couch or bench to free the foot in order to better focus on the quads. Try using some P&F contractions during your stretch to find more range. This can be done by starting in a position where the level of discomfort is a 6 out of 10 on the quads. After the first 30 seconds, once you've settled in, try to contract the muscles being stretched by driving the foot of the working leg into the wall or bench for 5 seconds. At the end of the contraction, where you created tension on the muscle, notice if you can then find more range by posturing up into a deeper stretch, bringing the intensity to a 7 out of 10 stretch on the quads. You can repeat this same contraction or try a different variation by squeezing the glute of the working leg for 5 seconds, and again noticing once you release that contraction whether you can posture up into a deeper stretch, perhaps getting your head closer to the wall, and now you're up near your end range at about a 8 or 9 on the scale of intensity, where you'll try and hold for a further 30 seconds before releasing. With the entry, 2 P&F contractions and a hold once you make it to your end range, it's about a 2-minute hold all up. Remember, discomfort is to be expected, and you're going to have to work hard and suffer through, especially if you're starting with a very stiff and tight body like I was. But we're not going to mistake this for pain and push our body into ranges it's not yet ready for. If you're consistent, your body will eventually open up. It just takes time. I've left a free beginner's mobility program in the description below, so you can grab that and give some of this stuff a crack next time you're in the gym. Feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram and let me know how you're cracking on with it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.